Hi everyone, welcome to another talk hosted by Unicast. I'm Benoit, and today we are diving into a topic every Web3 builder, trader, and investor faces daily: risk. So, in the space, understanding the psychology of risk is critical. So, joining us today is Mark Koh, creator of REKT Survivor, a platform dedicated to traders, degens, and Web3 enjoyers. So, Mark is also an angel investor and is backing Web3 project and helping founders navigate the space. So, for those as well who are new to Unicast, we are building the first Web3 job board fully integrated with Telegram, making it easier to discover, apply, and share Web3 jobs. So we now work with more than 120 projects and growing a community of plus 20K professionals. So in this episode, the psychology of risk in Web3 will explore, among others, why risk-taking behavior is so extreme in crypto, how builders and traders can make smarter decisions, and Mark's tips for founders and investors alike. So let's get into it. Hi, Mark. Can you introduce yourself and share about your journey in Web3?
Sure. My name is Mark Koh. I'm an angel investor in Web3. I also represent several projects, ThanksNet from Japan, which builds L1 blockchains on behalf of Japanese corporates and beyond, and also Liquify, a DeFi protocol, which allows you to get liquidity for your vested stakes. And last but not least, Monstro.fund, which is a DeFi protocol which makes yield farming and passive income really easy for end users. How I got into Web3 is actually an accident. So I was a Web2 founder between 2013 to 2019. I was the founder of Temploy.com in Singapore, matching part-time workers to jobs. And what happened is a friend actually shared with me a project on what you now call Polygon. And back then, nobody knew what a L2 on Ethereum was, neither did I. And what actually happened there is that in the process of trying to, yield farm on a degen goose fork, this was called Polywill. I believe it was the very first DeFi project on the Polygon chain itself. I actually ended up buying a lot of Matic. And these days, you keep a lot of stable coins, right? And you have a small bag for gas for like all of the L1 tokens. But back then, I mean, we're talking about 2018, 2019. I mean, I just kept a big bag of ETH because, you needed to use a lot of ETH back then. And as I got totally wrecked by that project, to be completely honest. The funny thing about it is that I made money from the appreciation of Matic because I mean, for some reason, I was like 2 3 days earlier before like they started really shilling it on Twitter. So that was the superhero origin story into Web3. And after that, I've gotten quite a bit more savvy at how to assess protocols, how to assess new chains, and of course how to avoid some of the pitfalls.
That's great. And so, what is REKT Survivor and what inspired you to building it?
Okay. So REKT Survivor actually isn't a platform, so that's the wrong way of representing it. It actually began as a joke. So me and Su Chuan Lee, and he is actually the one of the core contributors of Off-Chain Social, which is the largest Web3 social organization in the world with 70 chapters. And I mean, he started like doing beers and Web3 meetups over in China and Shanghai and Beijing and so on. And it grew into a very large scale organization. I met him through his setup. Credit to him. And I was pretty inspired. I was like, yeah, this is kind of cool. You just have this group of people that come and exchange best practices. And the thing is that we started talking about like, wow, all of the bad things that have happened in Web3. And most notably, two of us have been hit with the same disaster, like Yield.app, which is actually a custodial yield farming project. They basically went into liquidation, and Sue lost a bit of money, and so did I, and so did a few of my friends. And we were like cursing the name of like Tim Frost, the CEO of Yield. I mean, it's well publicized. Okay, they actually have a liquidator now handling the whole thing, and we still haven't gotten our funds back. And even if we do, it's going to be a fraction. So we both started like going like, oh my god, like we should do something to stop people from falling into to problems like that. I mean, of course, we couldn't have seen this one coming. Now, most people didn't see Luna coming, and most people didn't see FTX coming either, right? So the thing is that the only thing that we can do here is basically teach people how to survive. So it says, yeah, has anybody registered reksurvivor.com? I was like, no, I don't think anybody has. So I bought it. We started a Telegram group, and we are just keeping it to 100 people, which is completely opposite of what most projects try to do, which is have a large as possible community. We're having as
Mhm.
highly as possible. And we started a website just for the hell of it, through a couple of like products and articles on it, and basically what you see today is essentially the outcome of that one joke. So we're actually hosting the very first side event for REKT Survivor in Bangkok during Southeast Asia Blockchain Week, 2 p.m. on the 4th of April. So yeah, that's where it came from.
That's great. We'll share this. So is yield the biggest rect that you've got personally?
Oh hell no. There are far larger ones. Like for instance, right? I will remember I was in the office, and I was actually trading Luna when it went into free fall. I was actually shorting it. And because I was with an argument with somebody, I couldn't pay attention to the trade. So the thing is that, I needed to exit the trade. I didn't. So so basically it went into like 16 decimal places, right?
Wow.
That was pretty bad. I can say that I've lost like six figures on like being wrecked easily. There are people who have basically like lost the farm. One of my personal friends, he was in fact he's the guy that introduced me to DeFi in the first place. A shout out to him. His name is Nathan, and he lost something like I think it was 8 or 10 Bitcoin from the yield.app like debacle. But I can tell you, I've easily been wrecked like 5 or 6 times, like major. I was also part of the Iron Finance. So if you don't remember Iron Finance, they created a stable coin. Sound familiar? And it was based on Signorage, and it was a hacker that actually found the exploit, allowing him to mint an unlimited amount of the stable coin, which is Iron. And they actually had their own project token, which is called Titan. In fact, you can find a community on Telegram now. It's called Titan is the new Doge, because Titan, but yeah, it became a meme coin because everybody that held Titan got wrecked, right? And there was no point selling it because it was worth so little. So like Sue, my friend who gave me the idea for REKT Survivor, he still holds like 3 million Titan. And I still have like a couple of million sitting in a wallet somewhere. So that one is where Mark Cuban, the billionaire in US, he also invested into Iron Finance, and he also, in fact, he lost the most amount of money. So I was also part of the Iron Finance disaster. That wasn't Polygon, in fact.
Wow. And so these days, what are some of the craziest risk behaviors or patterns that you are actually seeing? Is it mostly people, for example, leveraging meme coins at like plus X10 or even more?
Well, most of the time you won't be able to get leverage on meme coins because meme coins most of the time don't have that much liquidity, well, except Trump. So I misspoke there. Some meme coins have a lot of liquidity, and those that eventually get CX listed would basically have derivatives or perpetuals enabled, which cause people to, the whole get rich quick behavior, right? So
Mhm.
reason why people get into meme coins a lot these days is because like they hear all these stories of somebody turning $100 into a million. It does happen, and people who successfully do that, they actually have to make extreme amounts of preparation. They would need to actually know the contract address beforehand. They need to basically prepare the liquidity. They need to have multiple bots set up. Essentially, they're sniping, right? So that isn't trading anymore. Most of what you asked me is that what are the craziest risks I've seen people take? Well, they are not actually trading; they're gambling.
Yeah.
So they buy into what I call vanity metrics, right? They see like 50 KOLs, shield is one coin. Like for example, when Caspa started, KASPA, I mean, there was a huge hype, a huge pump, and everybody knows what happened after that. Usually, like all of the KOLs and all the insiders, they already have a certain amount of the supply. And most of the time, if you find these actors and you find their wallets, right, you'll notice that they never actually bought in. They were given these tokens to actually shield. They're given a portion of the supply to shield that particular asset. And so when they do that, right, and enough retail liquidity comes in, everybody buys the token. These guys just sell their tokens, which they never paid for, and extract the liquidity from it. So that is one of the extreme risks, is people jumping in on like KOL, basically following vibes is I
Yeah.
think what younger people refer to it right now. I'm 44, I can say that. I'm sorry. The other extreme risk, you're right, is leverage trading, right? I had a very successful Ethereum miner before it went to proof of stake. He was operating multiple mining rigs in a single center in Singapore. And he was actually making some good money off it, because he didn't buy the miners and mine himself. He was using other people's money. Other people basically paid him to host their miners. So he was running Airbnb for miners, and he was doing pretty well until one day he decided to put in a relatively large leverage trade. I think he did like 30 to 40x leverage, and he was going with I forgot what asset it was. It was an altcoin. And obviously, like, he was on the wrong side of the trade, and he got liquidated. And the problem is that he kept trying to save the trade. So let's get a little bit deeper into this. So leverage trading is already inherently risky if you already know how to settle, if you know how to trade in general, if you know your fundamentals, you know your technical indicators, and you've got some experience from either forex or equities, then you should be pretty safe. But what I'm talking about here is people who don't do their research, right? They try to spot patterns that don't exist. Like an asset that says only existed for 3 weeks, it's not going to have that much data in it. You're not going to be able to run technical analysis or something like that. And the worst part is some people, they don't know how to calculate win-loss ratio. That means, for example, okay, let's say you put 100x leverage into something, right? All it takes is for the asset to move -3, and you lost 3 times your money. That means you lost 3 times more money than you actually put in. But these guys, they're not putting their stop loss like within really tight boundaries. So basically, the higher your leverage, the tighter your stop loss has to be. So they're too focused on the upside. So to get slightly deeper into this again, like for leverage trading, right? Some people only look at a single time frame. So they're only looking at, for example, the 4 hour time frame. They're looking at the day time frame, but they're not actually looking at it like much like broader. That means that you need to actually look at the same indicators from like 15 minutes, 45 minutes, 4 hours, one day. In fact, sometimes because you put so many parameters on it, the trade doesn't open. But that's the point, because if it fulfills all of these requirements, then most likely that you're probably betting in the correct direction. And let me just end off this answer with this. We already talked about like FOMOing. We already talked about like leverage trading. We talked about like people not simply understanding how to like the technicalities of actually trading. And the the dumbest thing that I've seen also is people who have made money and just didn't know how to exit. So they
Yeah.
actually use leverage. They went in spot. They're holding like a crap load of Doge. I've seen this, by the way, last cycle. Guy was waiting for 90 cents, right? And it was like, if I'm not mistaken, it was 78 cents or something, right? And he just refused to sell. And guess what happened to him? Just look at the chart today, right? So now he has to wait for it to climb back up before he can actually get back to where he was in the last cycle. Sorry, I think I went a little bit like sideways with that, but yeah.
So it's mostly that people take so much risk in this industry because of KOLs uh, getting rich quick or even FOMO. Uh, but the things to prevent this is, you said, obviously knowing the fundamentals of trading, and also doing research, actual research.
Yeah, I mean, one of the common sense things that's repeated so many times, like a lot of people say the same thing. They always say this is not financial advice. Well, it isn't, right? So most of the KOLs say it, but nobody actually like understands what that means, because they don't want to be liable for basically encouraging you to buy a particular asset. So that it's sort of like a mantra now. Everybody begins their video with this. This is not financial advice. Yeah, and the other thing that traditional TradFi people always say is don't try to invest things that you can afford to lose. So if you need like that $2,000 to pay for rent, right? You shouldn't be degening with it. So if of course if you have $20, right, and like you don't know what to do with it, and you saw this new meme coin and you went, you know what, that looks pretty bullish. What the hell, $20? Fine. That's like the guy that walks into a casino, puts 20 on black, and then basically if he wins, he walks away with $40. If he loses, he's still happy, right? He had fun. But unfortunately, like most people are dopamine addicts, right? So they win and then they try to win again, and that's basically greed. It's usually not knowing when to stop.
Mm.
Um,
And
Another thing is that people are getting scammed quite a lot these days.
yeah.
So there is a significantly like higher amount of scams than the last cycle. So commonly like people trying to get people to buy honeypots, like for example coins which have obviously like exploitable contracts, such as for example nobody can sell. So and like for example they can pause the trading on the token. Like some tokens essentially they um what's the word for it? Only selected wallets are whitelisted to actually trade the asset. So you get to buy in, you see the number go up, you go like, wow, I just made $50,000, and then you realize you can't sell. Or they have what you call the hidden tax. So on some chains like BSC or BEP20, which is Binance chain, you can actually have a token tax, and this was actually meant to be a legitimate like instrument for projects to actually use taxes to fund like their flywheel for their projects. Unfortunately, you see bad actors which have like maybe like 1% like buy tax and then like 99% sell tax. So basically, whenever you sell, the taxes go and feed the developer, who basically just eats all those taxes, right? The good
Mm.
news is that nowadays most wallets like Rabby wallet, and you have Dexes like Alien based on Base, and several of the CXs now have built-in detection. I mean, CXs simply won't list you if you have any potential red flags in the first
Do
place,
you use
right?
specific tools to prevent this or to see this before actually trading?
Yes, I do. So I use birdeye.so. I use Dex Screener, which is actually very good for looking at assets and looking for the top traders. One of the tips I can give is that when you're using Dex Screener, usually look at the top holders to check whether like most of the project is it owned by like the top 10 wallets. If it's like more than 50% is owned by the top 10 guys, yeah, that's kind of scary, right? Because those guys can just
Mm.
dump on you. So that's a little bit of common sense there. The other thing to look out for also is usually Dex Screener does tell you whether there's any like taxes on the token contract itself, whether there's like any hidden white listing on there. There's also other ways you can check. Like for example, I use a Telegram based bot. It's free actually. It's called Maestro. One of my friends got scammed. He actually went into the wrong Maestro. So the username for the Telegram bot is actually Maestro. Yeah, there's other fake ones, and he lost some money. So just make sure you get the official accounts. So the Maestro actually has a screener that actually allows you to see whether the tokens that you are about to trade has actually have any malicious code in them. But in general, the easiest thing you can do is start using tools, start using a safer wallet than just MetaMask. Rabby, Rabby, it's built by the DBank team, and it actually has a lot of safeguards built in. And obviously, besides the common sense stuff, like obviously don't trade with money that you can afford, where you can't afford to lose. You should also disable and disconnect protocols. Like for example, if you're connected to like, you know, obviously if you're connected to 1inch and connected to PancakeSwap and all these big market cap like Aave, these big famous projects, probably nothing is going to go wrong with you. But for most of the new projects, when you connect your wallet, you should disconnect your wallet after you stop using it. And the second thing is for token permissions. Like usually when you are trading or you're buying or you're basically interacting on chain, you should actually disable all the approvals that you're not too sure about. Like sometimes when you're trading on the DEX, they ask you for unlimited permission to spend your USDC or USDT for sometimes. They stop doing that. So some most DEXs now they only ask you for exactly the amount of money that you need for that particular trade. So anybody that asks you for infinite permission,
Mm.
most of the time something a bit strange is happening over there.
That's very interesting. So we've covered a bit the tool. Now with everything that you know, what is your usual due diligence before investing in a project or a new token? Do you have some sort of a checklist?
Oh yeah, I do. I mean, I usually have about 6 steps. Now, first is I check like who the founders are, obviously, and generally speaking, if they just have some random PFP and there's some cartoon character, then that usually is a red flag. Most people who are quite serious in the space are docs. For example, Monstro, which I'm part of, like everybody is doc. The leader OX Various is Keith. He just likes the nickname Various because it sounds cool. And the fact is that being doxed also lends credibility. So basically, proof of humanity, right? So that's point number one. Point number two is check for low effort. Low effort means that did this guy just AI generate everything on his Twitter? Did he just like put together his landing page in like 20 seconds using Gwen? So that usually is like you check for the amount of effort they have actually invested into like setting up the actual presence. I mean, a good example like Trump. Everybody was a bit scared when Trump launched his meme coin, right? But the fact is that his web presence and the fact that it was the president of the United States actually posting on his official account. I mean, even if somebody was like impersonating him, right? I mean, that's still a lot of work has gone into that. So that brings me to the third point, and that is proof of momentum. So if a
Mm,
lot of people are moving in the same direction, right? I mean, you just need to check the holders, right? Who are the holders? It's not just the project founders, it's not just the developers. Like who are the major holders of this project? So usually, if I, for example, this goes into what I do for how to put it, angel investment as well. I actually have a bit of a form for projects to sign up on. It's on vxglobal.sg if anybody is looking for angel investment, of course. We look at because the holders in the project, if you actually have VCs, for example, you have Sison Capital, you have Animoca or somebody like relatively large, it's very easy for to then just pick up the phone or just email them saying that, hey, look, did you guys actually invest into this project? So that proof of momentum is like, obviously the peers involved in that project, if they are credible people, why did they invest in this project? They must have done their own due diligence as well, right? Okay. Now, the fourth thing I find is what they call liquidity. The whole point of being in Web3 is that it's easy to go in and easy to get out, right? So if this is like a situation whereby you have to invest in a project, they give you like a 6 month cliff and then like a 2 year vest, right? I mean, this is just my perspective, right? But most angel investors, we don't have that long a horizon as VCs. So 3 month vesting is already pretty long, man. And I mean, a cliff 1 month, 2 months is reasonable, but this means that your funds are locked up. So what I'm scared of in the situation is that some people they have staking contracts and some illegitimate projects they stake their contracts. Like for example, I was actually stuck in two staking pools in FTX when it went to hell. So I couldn't even I couldn't even get my money out of FTX. So well thankfully that situation's over. The SEC did their job. Okay, so going on like the what is the number four? Number four is being basically liquidity. Is being are you going to be stuck in a long time, right? So if you have any background in finance or you've done an MBA or so, you would be able to calculate your time value of money. So what is the cost of your money being stuck there? You can probably make an informed decision of whether you decide to go into a staking contract or a vesting, if not. Yeah. Okay. So number five, uh, what I look out for also is physical proof. Now, physical proof means that does this project just exist online in the ether? It's like, do they just have a Twitter account? Do they only just have like a Twitter account, a website, like a Telegram group? I mean, they can have all the socials, right? But if they haven't done a single physical touch point, like you haven't met anybody in person, in the flesh from that team or people who have bought into that project and they are actual humans,
mm,
then defray a bit of risk because nowadays the joke is like you don't know who's a bot and who's a person anymore. So most of the points, right? You were like a single investor, he can spin up 50 wallets, right? And he can wash trade it. Now they do wash trading. Well, big people they call this market making, but to me that's all wash trading, right? If you're creating artificial volume, it is washing, okay? Moving it from one wallet to another, buying and selling to yourself. Come on, man. So that is usually indication that the project is not having any organic volume. As a result, it has to result to doing fake it till you make it. That's not great. Like I mean, in cases like the Trump coin, oh, that was genuine. That was genuine volume. You can see a lot of it moving, right? In the case when I can still remember when Shiba Inu launched, I can still remember when Doge launched as well. Yeah, you could see the community people dropping into the Telegram group. You can see people excited, people posting like like memes and stuff. So that's basically how to put it, physical touch point. So if I wanted to invest in a project and I wanted to invest in it like anything larger than like a couple of $100, I would like to actually see that they have done an event. I like to see that they have actually like spoken at events. I like to see that they have interacted with other physical humans. Okay. And the last one is actually pretty pretty straightforward. You can always follow your gut, because like even if you can't measure any of the things in the first five, if you feel that something's off, it is probably better for your wallet to just not do it. It costs you absolutely nothing. So yeah. So in fact, most of the time, just be a late adopter, because the problem is that people get screwed because everybody wants to be an early adopter, right? So being the early adopter only happens once in the life cycle of any like new coin. That's why memes are so exciting, right? But now the joke is, if you look at Pump.Fun, and by the way, Pump.Fun is like shooting out 40% less garbage than normal because people are getting, I think, getting fatigued from memes already. um, all of the money that was supposed to flow into this cycle's alt season was flowing into memes, and people obviously getting wrecked in memes is now basically becoming more and more obvious. So the fact is that you can't be that one lottery winner guy. It's probably not going to happen. In fact, you probably make more money going to an actual casino. That's the joke now. So yeah.
Thanks for all those tips, Mark. What is the worst wrecked scenario that you've personally avoided recently at the last minute? Is there anyone that comes into your mind?
Well, I myself made a really silly mistake recently. Like, I have a hardware wallet, and most people think that hardware wallets are safe. They're cold wallets. It does have its own recovery phrase. So what I actually managed to do wrong is I managed to actually get the PIN number wrong 3 times in a row, and my hardware wallet actually deleted itself. Now the
Oh,
problem is I I thought I was completely screwed, because like if that happens, right, the only way I can get it back is just finding the seed phrase, and I actually had to like turn my room upside down to find it. Well, I eventually found it, and I realized something. I was using a ledger, by the way, and I didn't realize that ledger actually has the same recovery phrase for the Solana as well as the Ethereum assets. So I was freaked out for like a couple of like hours because I didn't know that until I actually talked to Ledger support and found out that, oh shit, oh yeah, all I needed to do was remove the wallet from inside like Phantom, like in the browser extension, and then re-add it again from Ledger, and then it detected the original wallet and everything was right again. But that was really scary. I mean, imagine if I didn't actually keep that, because the whole point of a hardware wallet is that, it's a hardware wallet, right? You're not supposed to actually have access to the seed phrase because the seed phrase lives only on the hardware wallet. But if
yes.
in this case, if I didn't write it down, I would have been out another six figures. But yeah, so that's something which I narrowly avoided as well. The another one which I spotted recently is like one of our community members, like this was like a year back, right? He was going to get into a pre-sale, and this was for the L1X. I believe it is another L1 blockchain. And the pre-sale page, right? The scammers actually changed the domain just by one letter. And honestly speaking, all of us didn't notice it. It was like posted into our group. He even circulated it to our WhatsApp group with other like off-chain guys, wanting to get them on board. And shit, it took us a while because eventually the notification popped up unbelievably from Rabbi. Rabbi actually told me like, okay, this page has been flagged. And then when I looked at it and I looked at the original page, I was like, oh my God, it was just one letter. It was like S. That's different. Scary. But yeah. So sorry, I gave you not one, but two examples of how things, because I nearly went in myself.
Yeah, so always verifying the actual domain name.
Yeah. The domains are pretty important because like anybody can just buy a domain and they'll just copy the entire page. And you're probably interacting with like a wallet drainer or something.
Mm. And So what's your vision for mass adoption of Web3? Do you think it will take a long time before it goes beyond just degen and for the speculative reason?
I honestly believe that mass adoption is just a matter of when, because the right now is like we need to look at one factor, which is what is the amount of money that's actually coming on chain, and that number is actually increasing, isn't it? We know that it's about 2.8 trillion, and then at its peak it was like 3.7 trillion, right? And the fact is that with the institutions coming in more and more, and in fact it will be the institutions themselves that will drive the mass adoption, not the retail user. There are good examples, like in Singapore. You can top up your Grab wallet, which is like Uber in the States. You can top up your super app wallet just with any stable coin or any blue chip like BTC and ETH. Of course, it's one way. You cannot change it back again, but it turns into Singapore dollars and you can use it for basically anything. You can even like send it to your bank account and withdraw it into cash if you feel like it. Of course, there's fees. Some of the good actors in the space are like Straits X. I like to shout out to them. I've been using them for years. And with the government, the Singapore government actually walking in lockstep, they've been very cooperative with like most of the major players. I mean, Bybit recently is a major CX, a tier one CX that has gotten a major payment institution license in Singapore. You can just off ramp straight to a bank account. So the thing is that there will be a certain point where people stop off ramping and basically start using crypto natively, right? And we actually need more protocols to actually do real world asset things. Like right now, Travala is a good one that actually people can buy flights and hotels without actually having to convert or do anything with their crypto. You just connect your Web3 wallet and your self-custodial wallet, and off you go. You can just buy a plane ticket or a train ride. The thing is that as these get more popular, naturally the competitors, like the
Mm.
major OT, Trip.com, you've got Expedia. You think they're just going to let Travala grow? No, of course not. They're going to adopt the crypto features themselves. So that's why I say it's probably going to be utility driven, not retail driven. So the demand won't come from the individual like end users like asking, hey, I want to buy this in crypto. It's not. It's basically merchants going, I want to sell this on crypto. I got another great example. Hamza.market is one of the projects in the space that's trying to do DCOM, which is decentralized commerce. They have a side event in SEABW on the 2nd of April on Flamenco Club. I believe it's 7 p.m. in on top of the M Quartier building. You can find it on Luma pretty easily. And these guys, they are basically creating a decentralized version of Amazon. It's wonderful. So basically, merchants, they don't get so much fees. Not everybody's not paying taxes to Jeff Bezos anymore. They're basically just helping each other out in a trustless way. So the thing is that as more availability for people to spend their crypto easily with natively without actually having to off ramp, the mass adoption will start to occur. But to round off this answer, the one thing that I believe is coming, the big use case is games. Games creates its own demand relatively easily. So all we need is a major title. Just imagine a triple A title like I don't know, Rockstar Games doing their Grand Theft Auto. Imagine one of those, and because they want to bypass the distributor, they want to bypass the payment gateway, they want to bypass everybody. I mean, that's how crypto should work, right? So they would go for a on-chain distribution strategy, and that's where I believe what happened to some industries like the music industry with Spotify, right? That's going to happen sooner or later in the same form with basically the usage of like crypto and Web3 protocols.
Mm. And so, if you have one piece of advice for people actually who haven't yet entered the Web3 space as there is mass adoption, um, to avoid like any wrecked, what would be your if only like one piece of advice for them?
Okay, so one piece of advice means a single answer, right? So I would say create redundancy, meaning have multiple wallets, have multiple offline and online wallets, and basically have a backup plan. So don't keep all your eggs in one basket. Obviously, don't invest into everything. Don't sell your house and buy a whole bunch of Doge and wait for it to be 90 cents, for example. So basically decentralize your funds and fragment them as far as you can, you know. So that would be it. Have redundancy to keep
Yeah,
yourself safe.
but that can be a bit daunting, I think, for someone who has never been into Web3 to do all of this at the start.
Well, I mean, look, in the Web 2 and in the traditional finance world, I mean, you have more than one bank account, right? You have more than one email and more than one password. That's already redundancy. It's just trying to avoid the situation where if you actually get wrecked and your wallet is compromised, you don't lose everything.
Yeah. Do you think also government will need to be more strict with regulation to protect the retail crowd as there is a bigger mass adoption?
Okay. I'm not a huge fan of overregulation because
Yeah.
I mean, of course, we Singapore and Singapore is highly regulated already. But the fact is that it does still need to have enough of a stick to punish bad actors. So that's my comment on that one. So the fact is that the truth is regulation. The space is growing so fast, particularly with AI now making things more complicated. Uh, we basically need to basically just set some guidelines on what we recognize as bad behavior rather than trying to prevent people from innovating. So
Mm.
usually the wrong is like, oh, you can't do that. We totally disable the ability. Like, oh, no, you cannot go into the garden and play. Okay, you have to stay indoors. Of course not, right? But you shouldn't be pulling grass out of the ground and eating it. So we should ban that behavior, not ban the umbrella behavior.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Mark, for sharing your insight on the psychology of risk in Web3. It's been fascinating to hear your insight and your tip on how to stay safe in this space. So, for those who want to stay connected, do follow us on X at Unicast AI for future podcast, AMAs, and Web3 career insight. We also, of course, have the Telegram job board, t.me/unicast jobs to discover latest Web3 role. And definitely check out the REKT Survivor and Mark social as well. We'll put everything in the description. So, Mark, thanks again. Do you have any final word before we wrap up?
Oh yeah, I got a final word, and the final word I have is basically like one of the best things to basically get educated in the space, and at the same time, you know, move from a state of being wrecked to unwrecked. In other words, surviving a wreck, huh? Is to get a job in Web3. And one of the best purveyors and people that have been executing this very well is none other than Unicast, right? So the fact is that if people are wanting to build in the space and they actually want to how to put it, learn the best practices, where the pitfalls are, what not to do, is to basically like work for somebody that does. And getting those jobs and getting a right fit, I believe the best jobs for Web3 can be found on unicast.ai.
Well, thanks a lot. That's all for today. We'll share as well about Mark socials and his event as well if you are in Bangkok in the beginning of April. So thanks a lot and thank you for tuning in. See you next time.
See you.